2,000 years ago, a poor, wandering teacher walked into the most powerful religious system on earth, and it collapsed. Not because he raised an army, not because he held a sword, but because he spoke one sentence that was more dangerous than any weapon. The kingdom of God is within you. Think about that. If God is inside you, then who needs temples? Who needs priests? Who needs kings, popes, or systems to tell you who you are? Jesus didn't threaten Rome. He didn't threaten the Pharisees. He threatened the entire psychological prison humanity was living inside. And that made him the most dangerous man in history. What kind of person becomes a threat just by telling people who they really are? The crime of Jesus was not blasphemy. It was awakening. The Gospels never say Jesus was killed for being kind. They never say he was executed for healing the sick. They never say Rome crucified him for preaching love. He was killed because he woke people up. The Jewish religious system of his time was built on one invisible rule. You are broken, and we are the ones who fix you. The priests controlled forgiveness. The temple controlled God. The law controlled your worth. But Jesus came with a message that shattered that entire hierarchy. You are already connected to the source. In the Gospel of Thomas, a text excluded from the Bible, Jesus says, "The kingdom is inside you, and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known." This was spiritual treason. Modern psychologist Carl Jung later explained why this is so dangerous. He said systems of power survive by keeping people unconscious of their own inner authority. Jesus didn't offer a new religion. He offered self-knowledge. And self-knowledge makes control impossible. A slave who believes he is divine cannot be ruled for long. Why would religious leaders fear a man who told people to look within instead of obey outwardly? Jesus exposed the illusion of authority. Every empire survives on one invisible agreement. We have power over you because you believe we do. Rome had armies, the Pharisees had laws, the temple had rituals. But none of it meant anything, unless people believed they were small. Jesus walked into this illusion and did something shocking. He spoke with no institutional backing, no priestly rank, no political title, no sacred uniform, and yet he said, "All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me." Not because of ego, but because he knew something they didn't. According to mystic philosopher Neville Goddard, consciousness itself is the only real power. Whoever controls meaning controls the world. Jesus never begged Rome. He never debated the Pharisees. He simply behaved like a man who was already free. And when people saw that freedom, they realized their chains were optional. That was the real danger. A man with nothing to lose who couldn't be threatened, who couldn't be bought, who couldn't be silenced, is uncontrollable. Jesus showed humanity a terrifying truth. You only obey what you believe has power over you. If no authority has power over your consciousness, then who have you been giving it to? Jesus destroyed the psychology of fear. Fear is the oldest weapon of control. Fear of hell, fear of punishment, fear of not being good enough, fear of God's judgment. The entire ancient world was built on this emotional leash. But Jesus came with a message so radical it shattered the foundation of fear itself. Do not be afraid. Over and over, in every situation, storms, sickness, death, demons, poverty. Why? Because fear is the mind's way of forgetting who it is. Mystic theologian Meister Eckhart later wrote, "The closer a man comes to God, the less fear he has, because he sees nothing outside of God." Jesus wasn't trying to comfort people. He was teaching them something far more dangerous. Fear is the symptom of spiritual amnesia. When you know who you are, nothing can threaten you. That is why Jesus could walk toward crucifixion with calm eyes. Not because he wanted to die, but because fear no longer owned him. And a fearless human cannot be enslaved. What would you stop obeying if fear disappeared from your mind? Jesus taught people how to activate their inner power. Jesus never said, "Worship me." He said, "Follow me." That single word changed everything, because to follow Jesus didn't mean to admire him. It meant to become like him. In the Gospel of John, Jesus drops a statement that almost no church ever explains. "The works that I do, you shall do also, and even greater." That is not religion. That is activation. Ancient mystics understood this. So did modern psychologist William James, who wrote that human beings operate far below their latent spiritual capacity. Jesus was not a miracle worker. He was a consciousness teacher, showing people how to access the divine intelligence already within them. Prayer wasn't begging. It was alignment. Faith wasn't belief. It was inner knowing. The kingdom of God wasn't a place. It was a state of awareness. Practical technique, the inner kingdom. Practice. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. Slow your breath. Ask inwardly, what is true right now? Not with words, but with attention. That silence you feel, that's where the kingdom lives. What happens when you stop asking for power and start listening to it? Why this message still threatens the modern world. You might think Rome is gone. You might think the Pharisees are history, but their system never died. It simply changed clothes. Today, the world still runs on the same formula. Make people feel small, then sell them something to feel whole. Religion sells salvation. Politics sells security. Social media sells identity. Corporations sell self-worth. And all of it depends on one silent belief. You are not enough as you are. Jesus shattered that belief. Modern philosopher Erich Fromm wrote that systems of control survive by turning humans into consumers rather than conscious beings. A person who knows their inner authority cannot be manipulated by trends, fear, or propaganda. That's why Jesus is still dangerous. Not because people worship him, but because if they actually listen to him, entire industries would collapse. Who profits from you forgetting who you really are? The hidden choice. Jesus left behind. Jesus was not here to be worshipped. He was here to reveal a door inside the human mind, a door that, once opened, no empire, no priest, no fear, no system could ever close again. That door was called consciousness. That is why his final message was not theology. It was identity. I and the Father are one. Not I am special. But this is what you are too. Mystic philosopher Aldous Huxley called this the perennial philosophy. The eternal truth found in every ancient tradition, that the divine is not something you worship. It is something you realize. And that is why Jesus had to be removed. Because awakened people don't kneel. They don't beg. They don't fear. They remember. And once you remember who you are, you stop asking permission to exist. If the kingdom of God is within you, what are you still waiting for?